Good afternoon. It's a pleasure to be here with you again. My name is Dr. Nicki Newton, and I'm here having conversations about the Common Core. Today I'm here again with Dr. Kimberly Mayfield Lynch, who is one of the leading experts on implementing the new Math Common Core, especially for children with learning disabilities. And today I will be talking to her about universal design, which is something that a lot of districts are adopting and a lot of teachers don't really know what it is. so here we are. Welcome, Dr. Mayfield.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us.
Great to be here.
Okay. So what is universal design, first of all?
Well, universal design for learning is an approach to teaching and classrooms to provide maximum access for all students in all ways. And we have imported that concept of universal design from architecture. And so there was a moment in the architectural movement, if you will, where they were looking at what would we need to do as architects to build buildings for maximum access. And so what's key about that we can take into education is it wasn't what can we do to existing buildings to change them so that they can be accessible. It was what can we think about as we are knowing we're going to build buildings to make it accessible for all students. So when we move that concept into education, what that means is at the very beginning of thinking about teaching something, teachers are thinking about what needs to be in place so that all students have maximum access to it. So for example, in the early grades, it would be something like making sure things are big enough so that all students can see them. And if you're going to be teaching something like cardinality, the one-to-one correspondence, and then being able to look at a set of objects and know that that is the number, then it is making sure it's big enough that people can hold it, people can touch it, people can manipulate it, that it is not just like a 3 on a piece of paper and then 3 objects on the paper, in the paper, but that you are building something tangible so people can actually touch it.
Okay. So in specifically thinking about the new Math Common Core, and trying to navigate the new Math Common Core with the framework of universal design, how does that work? What does that look like? I think you kind of started talking about it, but what does that really mean? What do I need to know if I'm a teacher and I'm starting to do universal design? Or if I'm a principal and I'm trying to implement universal design in my school,
Right.
What does that look like? What are some key things that I see everybody doing and I know at least we've started it?
Right. So it's really thinking through what does maximum student engagement look like. So for example, not relying on traditional modes of communication might be an example of universal design. So a traditional mode of communication is that kids are raising their hands and they're talking. So maybe in universal design you would have whiteboards so that students could write on the whiteboard. So that means that everybody has access. People who don't speak as well, people who have English as a second language, they can demonstrate that they have an understanding by doing something on a whiteboard and showing it in class when it's called for. If the student has difficulty writing, then maybe it is putting things on that board that might be magnetic so that they could move things around and then show, or maybe having someone that can hold it up and show. So it's thinking about multiple ways to do one thing at the same time. So I would say like a common response system, but not necessarily a clicker, because you really can't see how students are processing the information with the electronic response systems. It really needs to be something that they create and then somehow they show that so that the teacher can check for the understanding. Some of it has to do with the setup of the classroom so that students can be part of what is happening. So if you're using desks, making desks or your table arrangement so that a student who's in a wheelchair could have access to the learning that is happening. And it's also being mindful of things like, if you want kids all on the rug, can all of the kids in the class physically get on the rug? Is there a way to do some of that on a whiteboard or using an Elmo so that everybody can actually see what's going on and be able to perceive and respond to it? I think the challenge is thinking out of the box from the very beginning. And so one default would be to say, how have I taught this previously, and what are some things I can think about doing that would allow me to teach this differently? And so I like to think of the multiple intelligences as a way to provide access. Now, multiple intelligences, we know, is like how your brain is operating or your preferred mode of learning, but those can give greater access to students, and sometimes you're giving access in ways that you didn't even know access needed to be granted.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think are some of the challenges of implementing a universal design framework?
I think that unfortunately teachers don't have enough time built into sort of their work day to really think through what it could look like. So I think that's one way that districts and administrators could be supportive, is to give teachers release time to really talk, and across grade level, because something that kindergarten teachers do, like I think kindergarten teachers are the teachers who are closest to universal design for learning just by definition, because in kinder you get kids, you get a mixed bag. They haven't been necessarily assessed or diagnosed in any way, and so you get 30 kids or 21, and that kindergarten teacher has to figure out how to teach all of them. And so if the kindergarten teacher and the fourth grade teacher are talking, then some of the approaches that kindergarten teachers use could be generalized across grade level. And then I think that higher grade level teachers can adapt some of what is happening at their grade level. So I think that teachers have a lot that they're contending with, and universal design for learning might seem like it's just one other thing. But if they have the time to really talk to each other, and I mean more than like a 45-minute, chunk of time, but if they have, 2 hours every week or a couple of times in a month, then they can really put their creative thinking hats on and share strategies across grade level and within grade level, so that they're able to provide maximum access from the beginning. I do think it's something that is developed over time. The more you teach in the same grade level, the more you're able to see how you can maneuver and manipulate and tinker so that more students have access to the curriculum.
Okay. One last question. What do you think is the promise of universal design?
Well, it's like, what is the promise of education? I think that the promise is that we would have an opportunity to really see equity in education, that we have more students engaged in the ways that they can be engaged. And then there's no limit to what students can show us that they know and show us that they've learned, and they will create new ways of learning that we can learn from as their instructors.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today, Dr. Mayfield.
Thank you.